BRICS Bulls Show daily podcast by and for you.
Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always.
I'm really excited about what we're looking at today. You sent over these fascinating articles about the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa,
Yeah.
and their recent business council meeting.
Mm.
But get this, the BRICS group just expanded.
That's all right.
Some new members have joined, and it could be a pretty big deal for the global economy. Are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, so these new members, we're talking Egypt, Iran, the UAE, and Ethiopia.
Yep. A pretty significant expansion.
Pretty significant. That's a good way to put it. I mean, what does that tell us? What does it mean that they're joining this bloc?
Well, I think it reflects a growing desire among these nations to create alternatives.
Alternatives to what?
To the kind of Western-dominated financial systems that have been in place for, a long time.
Right, kind of shaking up the status quo.
Exactly. A potential shift in global power dynamics.
Okay, so a power shift. Interesting. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this business council meeting. It was held in Moscow on October 17th.
Right. Kicking off the annual BRICS Business Forum.
And they've got some ambitious goals. Let's just say that.
Oh, yeah. They are not messing around.
Not messing around. Okay, so first up, they're looking at improving transport and logistics among all the member countries.
Streamlining trade, making it easier for goods to flow between those nations.
Yeah, like building a superhighway for commerce.
Wow.
And then they're also talking about strengthening communication channels. That's got to be a pretty wild group chat with all these different countries.
You would think. It is essential, though, for coordinating on all these initiatives.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But it goes beyond just the practical stuff, right?
Right. It gets even more interesting when you look at their plans for a financial settlement system.
Okay, now we're talking. A new way to handle money. Tell me more about that.
Essentially, they want to be able to trade with each other without always having to rely on the U.S. dollar.
Whoa, so this could actually have a real impact on, global currency markets.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's a move towards creating a more multipolar world in terms of finance.
Multipolar. I like the sound of that. Spreading the power around a little bit. So besides this big financial system overhaul, what else is on their agenda?
Well, they're also looking at unified digital infrastructure.
Okay, tell me more about that. What does that actually look like?
I think shared digital platforms, maybe even collaboration on things like artificial intelligence.
Wow. So they're really thinking long term, not just about today's trade deals, but the future of technology and how these countries can work together.
Precisely. It's a holistic approach to economic development and cooperation.
I'm seeing a theme here. Big ideas, bold moves. And they're not just talking the talk. One of the articles specifically mentioned enhancing financial settlements in the digital economy.
Right.
And improving trade and investment opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It even had a quote from Sergei Katarin, the president of the Russian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He said, and I quote, "We see the desire on the part of all our partners to work together to build business contacts within the BRICS framework."
A pretty clear statement of intent.
It seems like they've got a lot of momentum going here. And speaking of working together, they've got a whopping 40 recommendations in their portfolio, from what I read.
40. That's a lot.
It is a lot to tackle, but apparently the integration of those new members has been pretty smooth so far.
Which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Shows they are serious about making this expansion work.
Yeah, definitely not just a symbolic gesture. Okay, so you mentioned a portfolio of recommendations. What are some of the areas they're focusing on?
Well, we're talking agribusiness, the digital economy, energy and green economy, financial services.
Right.
They even have groups dedicated to infrastructure, manufacturing, aviation.
Wow, the list goes on.
Yeah. Trade and investment, of course, and even skills development.
It's like they're trying to build a whole new economic ecosystem from the ground up.
In a way, yes. And that holistic approach is what makes it so interesting.
It is. It is. Okay, so they've been busy putting together this annual report, right?
Yes, they have.
And they're going to present it at the upcoming BRICS Summit in Kazan. That's happening October 22nd through the 24th.
Very soon. A lot of eyes are going to be on that summit.
I bet. They're expecting delegates from over 30 countries, including countries in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America.
It's going to be a big event for sure.
Huge. Okay, so we've talked about this financial settlement system and how it could challenge the dominance of the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
But how would it actually work? Break that down for me.
Sure. Right now, if a company, let's say in Brazil, wants to buy something from a company in India,
Yeah.
they often have to go through this complicated process involving currency exchanges, international banks.
Lots of middlemen.
Exactly. And a lot of those transactions use U.S. dollars as the intermediary currency.
So adding extra steps, extra fees, probably slowing things down.
Right. It can be inefficient and costly. So what this new system aims to do is cut out some of those steps.
Make it more direct.
Exactly. Make transactions faster, cheaper, more efficient for BRICS members. Now, how they will achieve that, there are different possibilities.
Okay, give me some examples. What could that look like in practice?
Well, they could create a digital platform for direct currency swaps between member nations. Or even more ambitious.
Even more ambitious. Okay, lay it on me.
They could potentially establish a brand new common currency for the bloc.
Whoa, a BRICS currency. Imagine that. That would be a huge development.
It would be. It would definitely shake things up.
Okay, but realistically, how likely is something like that to happen?
It's a bold idea, and it would definitely face challenges.
Yeah.
You've got to get all these countries to agree on things like monetary policy.
Yeah, that's a lot of different economic interests to balance.
For sure. And then there's the question of how you peg its value to other currencies, how it interacts with the existing global financial system.
Right, it's not like they're operating in a vacuum.
Exactly. And let's be real, the current major players in the global economy, they might not be too thrilled about a new kid on the block.
So potential for pushback.
Definitely. But even with those challenges, the fact that they're having these conversations, that they're exploring these possibilities, that's significant in itself.
It is. It shows a real shift in thinking, a move away from the status quo. So BRICS is going big on trade, tech, maybe even their own currency. But how does this all connect to the bigger picture of global power dynamics?
Well, that's the key question, isn't it? I mean, for decades, Western powers have held most of the cards, economically, politically, even culturally.
Yeah, they've been the dominant force.
But with BRICS expanding and gaining economic clout, we're potentially seeing the emergence of something new, a multipolar world.
Multipolar world sounds fancy. What does that mean in plain English?
It means that power is becoming more spread out, not just concentrated in one place. Imagine a table where decisions are made. For a long time, Western powers occupied most of the seats.
They had all the control.
Right. Now, BRICS is pulling up a chair, and it's a big one.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could really change things. But how would this shift in power actually affect things on the ground? What would it mean for, say, someone living in the US or Europe?
That's what we're going to delve into next.
I'm all ears. This is getting really interesting.
So yeah, a potential shift in global power dynamics.
Yeah.
But what does that actually mean, right? Like, how would it actually play out?
Yeah, let's get real world here. What would this look like for everyday people?
Well, first off, think about your wallet.
Okay, now you've got my attention.
If BRICS succeeds in creating these alternative financial systems, it could shake up the global market. More competition, potentially lower prices.
So cheaper stuff. I like where this is going.
Maybe. Think electronics, clothing. It could impact all sorts of things we buy regularly.
So like a global BRICS discount?
Possibly, yeah. And it goes beyond just consumer goods. Think investments.
Oh, interesting. Okay, how so?
A multipolar world could open up all kinds of new opportunities for investors. BRICS nations become these attractive destinations for capital.
Diversifying the portfolio, spreading the wealth around, I can dig it. But couldn't this also, lead to instability?
That's a fair point. Change can be unpredictable, especially when we're talking about something as complex as the global economy.
Exactly. What are the risks here?
Well, you could see pushback from the established powers, the ones who are used to calling the shots.
Yeah, those at the top don't usually give up their position easily.
Right. So there's potential for trade wars, sanctions, maybe even increased geopolitical tension.
So like a global tug of war.
Kind of, yeah. It's something to be mindful of, but it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay, good. I was starting to get worried.
A multipolar world could actually lead to more stability in the long run. Think about it. Power is distributed among multiple players.
So no one entity has all the control.
Exactly. More checks and balances. Prevents any one country from getting too powerful, too reckless.
So kind of like a system of shared responsibility on a global scale.
Right. More voices at the table, leading to more balanced decisions, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. So we've talked about the economic and the political impacts, but what about the social and cultural side of things?
That's an important piece of the puzzle, too. I mean, as BRICS nations collaborate more, we could see a surge in cultural exchange.
Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
Things, student exchange programs, collaborations between artists, musicians from different countries, even just increased tourism between BRICS nations.
Oh, yeah. More travel opportunities. Sign me up for that.
Right. And it's not just about having fun. This kind of interaction can foster understanding, empathy, appreciation for different cultures.
Yeah. Breaking down barriers, learning from each other. That's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And it can also lead to innovation, creativity. You know, when people from different backgrounds come together, they bring fresh ideas, perspectives.
Totally. Cross-pollination of ideas. But even with all this collaboration, wouldn't there still be a risk of conflict, especially within BRICS itself?
Well, yeah, no alliance is perfect. These countries have different political systems, priorities, even some historical baggage they're dealing with.
Right, we can't ignore that. Like India and China, for example, haven't always seen eye to eye.
Exactly. So managing those internal dynamics will be crucial for them moving forward.
So how do they strike that balance? How do they present this united front to the world while also dealing with their own internal differences?
It's a balancing act for sure. But remember, they've come together because they have shared goals. Reducing Western dominance, increasing their own power on the global stage.
So focusing on what unites them rather than what divides them.
Exactly. And finding ways to compromise, cooperate on those issues where their interests align.
Okay, so finding that sweet spot where collaboration outweighs competition.
Right. But even if they manage to navigate those internal challenges, they still have to contend with potential pushback from the existing powers.
Yeah, the folks who aren't exactly thrilled about this whole BRICS expansion thing.
Exactly. So what might that look like?
Give me the rundown. What tools do they have to try and counter this rise in BRICS?
Well, economic sanctions are a big one. Trying to weaken those BRICS economies.
Yeah.
Diplomatic pressure, too. Trying to isolate them on the world stage.
So making it harder for them to operate, to build those alliances.
Right. And then there's always the option of trying to create divisions within the bloc itself.
Exploiting those existing tensions we talked about.
Exactly. So it's a complex situation, lots of moving parts.
High stakes, lots of uncertainty. So with all that in mind, where do we go from here? What does the future hold for BRICS?
It's tough to predict the future with any certainty. But one thing is clear. The emergence of BRICS is a sign that things are changing. The old world order is being challenged.
And the outcome is still up in the air.
Exactly. The future is more uncertain than ever.
Okay, so maybe no crystal ball predictions. But we've gone from, just understanding what BRICS is to seeing this expansion. We've talked about their goals, their potential impact. I mean, this could affect everything from global trade to our everyday lives.
Absolutely. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. So as this story continues to unfold, what's the most important thing for people to do?
Stay informed, stay engaged. The decisions made by these powerful players, they will affect all of us.
So we all have a part to play. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but before we wrap things up, I've got one final thought-provoking question.
Hit me with it.
We've talked about the big picture stuff, like, economic shifts, possible conflicts, all that.
Right.
But let's zoom in a little bit. How could this rise of BRICS actually touch the lives of, just regular folks, like you and me?
That's a great question. I mean, it's easy to get lost in all the high-level talk. But at the end of the day, it's about how these changes affect real people.
Exactly. So let's bring it down to earth. Concrete examples. How could this BRICS expansion impact our everyday lives?
Well, for starters, think about all the things we buy, right? The stuff we use every day.
Groceries, clothes, gadgets, all that.
Yep. As BRICS nations become bigger players in the global economy, it could mean more competition among companies, which could lead to, you guessed it, lower prices.
Okay, so my morning coffee might get a little cheaper thanks to BRICS. I can get behind that.
Maybe. But it's not just about saving a few bucks on your latte. Think about jobs.
Oh, right, yeah. Job opportunities. How would that be affected?
Well, as these BRICS economies grow, you're going to see businesses wanting to expand into those markets.
Makes sense. Tap into that growing consumer base.
Exactly, which could create new jobs, not just in those countries, but potentially all over the world.
So a global boost for the job market. Okay, I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. What about travel? Any potential impacts there?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. As these BRICS nations become more interconnected, travel between them could become much easier, maybe even cheaper.
So like new flight routes opening up, more affordable options for getting around.
Right, or even imagine high-speed rail connecting major cities across continents.
Okay, now that would be amazing. Zipping from, I don't know, Rio to Beijing in a few hours. Sign me up.
And with more people traveling, it opens up opportunities for cultural exchange. Trying new foods, experiencing different art and music.
Breaking down those barriers between cultures, building connections, that's a definite plus. But of course, we have to acknowledge the potential downsides too. What about conflict? How might that affect everyday people?
Yeah, that's the reality of any major power shift. Increased competition could lead to trade wars, sanctions, even military conflict in a worst-case scenario.
Right, and that could have ripple effects throughout the global economy, disrupt supply chains, drive up prices, who knows what else.
Exactly. So it's not all sunshine and roses. There are risks involved, and it's important to be aware of that.
So while there's potential for positive change, there's also the chance things could go south.
Right. It's a reminder that we all have a stake in this, and we need to stay informed, stay engaged, if we want to shape the future in a positive direction.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to wrap things up today, we've really gone deep on this BRICS expansion.
We have. From the big picture stuff like global power dynamics to how it could affect our everyday lives.
We've talked about new financial systems, a possible BRICS currency, the challenges of navigating this multipolar world.
Yeah, lots to consider.
And we've looked at both the exciting possibilities and those potential risks. But at the end of the day, it's a story that's still being written.
Very true. And it's one we all have a role in shaping.
So to everyone listening out there, keep asking questions, keep learning, and most importantly, use your voice.
And make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of BRICS. Until next time, stay curious.